do. We keep the house dope like Pop Vinnies. We twist and pop Henny, getting wet on a daily.
Yo, I'm hot like 95 Fahrenheit. On a summer night, tight spot where bodies rot. Rats drink from water drops in the streets, niggas. Little kids scare cops with red dots. Philosophical gangster.
More tobacco leaf, the way into my time, serve and get released. Cool, back on the streets, I seen some old drama.
Certain parts of the streets, the beast don't want a part of.
I still hold heat to send your ass straight to trauma. These kids started grinning like they're ready and willing. I gave them exactly no time to switch feelings. Pulled out, told my man, look out, commence the warfare and rock these.
1, 2.
Okay, Jon Paula.
Hi.
Welcome to Make a Mixtape. So a lot of people I think who are listening to this today, hang on a second, I'm a little too loud. Okay, there we go.
How bad will the traffic be on here?
It's surprisingly not that bad.
All right.
That one will be bad.
Yeah.
A lot of people who are listening to the podcast today will know who you are, but tell the people anyway who you are and, where people might know you from.
You flatter me with that introduction. I just assume in any room, on any podcast, nobody has any idea who I am because so much of my fame is so many years in the past. You might know me from being the co-creator of a little web show called Is It a Good Idea to Microwave This?, which I created with our mutual good friend, Jory Karen. But that was 15, 16 years ago now. It was literally like another lifetime. And since then, I did a 10-year stint on YouTube as a professional content creator. And then when my first daughter was born in 2018, I shifted to sort of private sector video production work, and I've been doing that ever since. And quite a big fan of the stable paycheck and the health insurance and benefits that come with it.
Yeah, that's actually kind of like a common, in the past of this show. That's something that I have often tried to articulate, and I try to pass along to like younger content creator or people who
have an exit plan for your 30s, because in the 20s it was great. I could make $40,000 one year, $60,000 the next, not have to worry, or actually not have to set aside money for taxes or insurance, because I didn't have health insurance in my 20s, because I didn't have anything wrong with me then. I didn't have kids. I didn't need to do anything. And suddenly when you get to your mid-30s and late 30s as we're approaching, it's that's not a sustainable way to run a life, because I wasn't setting any money aside for any of that.
Yeah.
And it was wow, I'm making so much on YouTube. I'm like, I wasn't making anything. I just didn't know how to finance or budget. So I'm like, yeah, I made a lot of money because I wasn't planning for anything.
Yeah.
And I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment right off the T in Boston. I didn't have a single family house in New Hampshire. So yeah, things have certainly changed.
I think my old advice to people used to be if you get yourself some kind of corporate job, doesn't really matter what, any kind of job where you can be a little bit of a personality hire, but you'll get to do some fun things, because a lot of people who work in offices are introverts and don't want to do those fun things.
That is exactly right.
But beyond that, you'll have time to continue to kind of pursue your interests. There's no rule that you can't have a TikTok channel.
Yeah.
As long as you're not making a TikTok about your coworkers or something, you're fine.
Yeah, right.
Do whatever you want.
It's real important not to cross the streams. And indeed, what you're mentioning is exactly how I found myself at both of the quote-unquote corporate jobs I've had after YouTube. Is oh, you guys don't have the video guy. And I can do all of that.
Right.
My discipline set is 12 things deep. None of them are master level, but I'm really good at a lot of things. And that's what you need. You don't need an expert graphic designer, but you need someone that's really adequate, and that's me. So I can kind of slot in and be oh, you guys need new logos, new brochures. That's actually fun. That sounds like a fun challenge. So I'm always volunteering for that sort of thing because I get paid the same either way. And if it's slightly different than yesterday, that's better.
I agree.
I always like changing things up and the rote, mundane sort of every other thing that's exactly the same. Is that what kind of gets boring?
I agree, and I think that people who think the way that we think that everyone thinks that way, and I think it's an important lesson to learn that some people don't. I was a corporate trainer for 10 years.
I wish I had this conversation with you a decade ago, because that was one of the most striking things when I joined the workforce. It was oh, you guys don't go home and watch movies and just write film reviews for fun.
Yeah.
That's a me thing.
Right.
Right. And I can still do that while making a full-time salary over here, providing for my family. It's if I have that outlet, I can still pursue that. And if I'm just better about how I schedule my time, I can absolutely juggle my hobby and my career, whereas before it was all big one thing, and it totally burned me out.
a lot of people think that you and I probably know each other better than we do.
This is only the third time I think we've ever met in person.
Yeah.
Legitimately. Granted, one of those times was a trip to Los Angeles for like a week. So we spent, it was like 5 intimate days in the same hotel room and stuff. So that's a little different. But I knew a lot of you before and after that, but we've only, I think, met in person once or twice.
Right, mostly online.
Yeah. Our online relationship goes back 15 years
very
at
long
least.
Time. Yeah, that's true. But it's very funny, and then especially now because we have children who are the same age, so
almost exactly the same age. Because I think Arlo and Isaac were born within a week or two of both of my girls.
So we both had the pandemic babies.
Yes,
but like anticipatory pandemic. Like we didn't realize it was going to happen.
It lined up great for me because I took like 5 weeks off for paternity leave, and then the world shut down. And I'm like, I'm on full-time paternity leave.
Yeah.
It just sort of it rolled into that, and I didn't have to really change my life at all because I had just come back from 5 weeks off, and then the very next week everything shut down. Yeah. I was like, cool, I've kind of already adjusted to this at-home life, so let's keep it going. And then we did for a couple years.
Yeah, I know. I think it definitely, we had the best possible like parachutes for getting through that kind of isolation, especially because I think probably particularly as like a man in your 30s, when you have children, a lot of your friends don't. And you would experience this kind of, you would experience the social loss regardless.
Yes.
And so it's like, at least it happened to us while it was happening to everyone.
I think that was actually a great way to phrase it, is it was really opportune timing because I wasn't going to go out to the movies anyway. I'm not going out to see friends or drive down to the city because I have like a 3-week-old at home.
Right.
So I'm stuck at home taking care of her for the next 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And it just so happens no one else can leave either. So my fear of missing out, it was like, hey, great.
All right, well, speaking of children, let's talk about your childhood and a song that you think reminds you of your childhood.
Ooh, good segue.
George Harrison, My Sweet Lord. This is a great song.
It is a fantastic song. One of my favorite post-Beatles solo songs. Up there with Imagine and Live and Let Die, and I guess if we include one from Ringo, It Don't Come Easy.
Yeah. Okay.
My Sweet Lord, I think, is my favorite George Harrison song, and I have really strong, really vivid memories of this. Some of my earliest memories ever. I think that sort of gray, fuzzy line starts around 4 or 5 years old. And I remember listening to this when I was like 4 or 5. I also know I was listening to this at 4 or 5 because I have home movies of me like crawling around on the floor, playing with toys, crawling on my father's stomach in the living room, and the Beatles are playing in the background. And there's something about every single time I hear that, I'm like right back in my childhood home, which we moved out of when I would have been like 6 or 7. So it's one of those memories I associate closely with a place that doesn't exist anymore, at least for me. Because I can't go back there, I can't revisit it, I haven't been there in over 30 years. But I hear that song and I'm like, wow, I remember the smell of the carpet and the layout of the kitchen and my mom cooking and like the music on these giant R2-D2 size speakers my dad owned because, of course, it was the 80s. He had all the biggest, most obnoxious technology. And I don't know. It's one of those things that they say, scent is one of the strongest, or is the strongest scent tied to memory. And for me, it's George Harrison music.
I feel like certain songs sound like the decade in which they appeared.
Yeah, right.
But then there are certain songs within that category that have this kind of X factor. Where it feels like the song always existed and is also kind of new somehow. There are very few artists that manage to do that. No surprise that like 2 of the Beatles, Paul McCartney and George Harrison, are both pretty good at it.
Yeah, right.
But like where like, conceivably when you hear like a Paul McCartney song in a new context, then you're like, oh, I feel like this is a brand new song.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm actually, I feel like I'm still learning Paul McCartney, like
he has so many albums.
Yeah, and
him,
I feel like
Elton John, and Neil Young. They put out a new album every year for the last 50 years. Their catalogs are deep.
As a kid, I could not distinguish between John Lennon and Paul McCartney's voices.
Yeah, I had that problem until very recently.
Yeah.
I actually, it was articulated. One of those magical things that your kids bring out. My daughter was like, "Who's singing this?" And I'm like, This is Paul Oh, shoot, this is Paul McCartney? Like, I was thinking for the first time in my life, he sings Get Back, doesn't he? Why did I always think it was John? I don't know.
I feel like it has something to do a lot with with the Beatles. It's like certain songs have a very specific attitude. And, like, the more attitude-y ones you tend to think are John for some reason. And then, like, listening to Paul McCartney's solo music more as an adult has made me... I've picked up on little things in Paul McCartney's voice that I didn't hear when I just listened to the Beatles. But now if you go back, I can hear them.
That's
so
awesome.
I'm like, I didn't realize this was Paul McCartney. But yeah, it's a funny thing.
It's one of those bands that I think, I mean, obviously we're not the first two white people to ever remark on the genius of the Beatles, but it's remarkable that I loved them and appreciated them at 4 years old. I was like, I dig this sound. This is cool. It's poppy. It's fun. It's repeatable. It's easy to learn or at least sing. And yet, 35-something years later, I'm still going like, yeah, no, this is pretty brilliant. They kind of figured it out right at the beginning. And they're still doing it. I saw Ringo in Vegas like a month ago.
Really?
He was great. It was so much fun. The guy looks fantastic for 80-whatever years old, and it was a treat.
Underrated drummer, too, I think, Ringo.
He's
an underrated drummer.
He's a good orchestrator, for lack of a better word. He knows how to, like, assemble the pieces and, like, keep everything going. And he's very always, like, laid back and in the shadows and, like, I'm just going to keep it over here doing my drums.
You have a sister, right?
Yes.
So is your sister older or younger?
Younger. She's almost exactly your age, I believe.
Okay, so who brought the Beatles into your life, though? Your mom or your dad?
My dad. My dad is such a huge influence on me musically because of his obsession with rock and roll. My dad used to physically make mixtapes. He had 2 separate cassette recorders on top of our television in our big entertainment console, and he would record WBCN and WFNX all day long when he was at work, and he would come home from work, and he would take this 8 hours of radio, and he would take it and put it in the other cassette deck, or put a blank in the other cassette deck, play it back, edit out all the commercials and all of the DJ banter, so he could get himself, like, here is the world premiere of Nirvana's All Apologies, or this is something from Pearl Jam, or whatever he would have been listening to in, like, the early 90s, late 80s, which would have been a lot of grunge and alt-rock and stuff, and I guess some George Harrison and, like, Led Zeppelin that they would have been, 10 years removed at that point. And he would make his own mixtapes, and he would take these 2 cassettes, put them together in LP quality, label them, put down the runtime, and he had a whole cabinet. And he was doing it old school style, where he would just tape the radio for a day to get the song he wanted.
Yeah,
and now we can just type in
Right.
3 characters, and everything we need comes right up.
I respect the hustle.
Yeah.
I actually just learned recently that, in the 90s, like when CNN first started, right, that was the first time we ever had 24-hour news.
Yeah, right.
And they were not saving their own tapes. They were just taping over stuff because it never really occurred to them that they should, and they were trying to save money. And so there's a huge section of televised history that we would not have were it not for there was a woman in D.C. who recorded 70,000 hours of television and had all these cataloged tapes. And when she died, it was donated to the Television Museum, and they were able to, like, resurrect all this stuff.
I was going to say, did she wait until she was 80 and then sell it to the museum for, like, a pretty penny?
I wonder if she ever knew what she had, or if it was just a compulsive behavior.
Yeah.
But that's how we have anything, and obviously that's still an incomplete record.
Yeah.
And I was so the writer Chuck
fascinating.
Klosterman has a theory that that's where the Mandela effect comes from, is that there was a period of time in the 90s before the internet when people were suddenly presented with way more information than they ever had before, but portions of it no longer exist. And so for people that grew up through that, like particularly Gen X, right?
Right.
Trying to reconcile that it doesn't work, and it's created the Mandela effect, and there are these certain parts of history
there's just
that
big
they'll
gaps.
just never believe because they believe it was something else for sure.
That's terrific.
And I think that's, like, I don't know. I don't know how accurate that is, but it's a solid theory.
I know there's entire, like, seasons of Doctor Who, the original run from the 50s and 60s, whatever that aired. I haven't seen it, but I know there's episodes that exist only because some guy in Westerford or whatever taped it on one of the earliest model VCRs that ever existed in, like, 1960 whatever. And he's like one of 3 people that recorded it, and he's like, I got the tape. Anybody needs it. This is the only surviving copy of an entire 12-episode run of Doctor Who. It comes from one guy. Star Wars Holiday Special is another great one that only aired one time. So every version of that you ever watch today comes from, like, 3 different dudes who owned a VCR in 1979. And so if you wanted to hear, like, super old commercials from WBCN, which I think is now defunct. I don't even think that station exists anymore in Boston. My dad probably has tapes and tapes and tapes of those old radio spots. And
that's cool.
It is pretty cool. So I got my love of music and my obsessive love with like making the perfect mixtape, making the perfect sort of crossfade and segue and like the flow of music. I got that all from him.
It's a nice like talent to have, and it's a nice thing to be obsessed with, I would say.
It's underrated.
And I know that you're a big Bruce Springsteen fan. And,
Huge.
Bruce Springsteen has, I think, a lot of people in his kind of fan base that are catalogers and archivists.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's one reason. I think that's part of his legacy, is that it's like Bruce Springsteen is well documented.
Yes.
Because people got obsessed with him.
Yes.
And wanted to document him.
I think he's up there with like Fish and the Grateful Dead as being very famously like pro bootleg and the kind of people that follow him around on tour.
Yeah.
They go to every show on the East Coast. They'll document the set list, make any notes, any feedback about, he did a slightly longer solo. They added an extra drum fill at the end of the Prove It All Night 78 intro on this day, September 19th, 1970. But on the 20th show, he didn't do the extra drum fill, and he did this one extra line, which is different, but it is the same as the liner notes from the first demo of the album, which he recorded. Like, people follow all of that stuff, and I'm able to rattle off that example because most of it's real.
Wow, yeah. So a song you consider an all-time favorite is Jungle Land, Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
Great song. It's like 8 minutes, right? It's a lot. It's got, maybe it's 7 and change.
7 and change for the studio version. My favorite is the Live in New York from the Madison Square Garden show in 2000. And that version's like 10 and a half minutes. Mm-hmm. Clarence's saxophone solo, every time I hear it, I'm literally levitating off the ground, or figuratively levitating off the ground. I should be clear. I know how words work. That's right up there. That's like a 3-way tie for me with Born to Run, Thunder Road, and Jungle Land. Those are probably, if pressed, my 3 favorite songs, all kind of tied for first place. Jungle Land's longer, though, so if I had, a death row wish, you have one song before you die, I would pick the longer song so I can live a couple extra minutes. So the tie goes to Jungle Land because it's longer. It's more of a complex song, right? There's rising and falling, and the lyrics are poetic, and it's kind of an operatic novel. He's telling this whole story about the magic rat and the Exxon sign and all these characters, and it feels like American Graffiti turned into music. And I love it. I adore it. One of my favorite songs. And another one I closely associate with childhood, because that was an album my dad loved, and we listened to Springsteen a lot when I was probably in utero. Actually, I know for a fact, because my dad has like a Born in the USA tour short that he went to see whenever Springsteen came to Boston in 1985 or whatever, and I was born the following winter. So I was probably literally in utero when he went to see that show with my mom, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool to say that. My first show, I was,
Okay, so not counting in utero, though, how many times have you seen Bruce Springsteen?
13.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think that's the number of times I've seen Conor Oberst, or various iterations of Conor Oberst's bands, which he's kind of like my Bruce Springsteen. So,
right.
So
everybody needs their guiding light of music that they just obsess over and see every time they come back. And for me, that's Springsteen. As long as he's alive and playing a guitar, I'll give him whatever obscene amount of money he decides it's worth this time around.
So let's talk about a song that you're listening to a lot right now. This is a song about the real estate travails of Taylor Swift.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, is there anything America loves more than a billionaire waxing poetic about their third summer beach house? I think it speaks to all the dream in all of us. The Last Great American Dynasty, off of, what is this, from Folklore, I believe? I mean, she put out like 6 albums in 6 months. I lose track. Speaking of good stadium shows and someone who knows how to do it, I got the chance, because I paid a lot of money and was quick on Ticketmaster, to see her at Foxborough a couple years ago when she came through Massachusetts. And like, without a doubt, the most impressive just 3 hours of entertainment I've ever seen in my life. Springsteen included.
Wow.
He can sing and he can play, but when it comes to theatrics, he just like put a video screen on so they can see my fingers and my face, and the rest is just leave the house lights up. Like, he doesn't even bother half the show with actual lights. It's just leave all the lights on, and that's fine. That's how I want to end my show. But Taylor Swift is doing all these different movable floors and trap doors and giant moving sets and fireworks and the stage that lights up and cracks like glass when she's walking on it, and everything is incredible. Everyone in the crowd has a bracelet that lights up in sync with the song she's playing. It's a very immersive, a very exciting experience, and when you're in a room or in an arena with 65,000 other people and they're all screaming at the top of their lungs with so much enthusiasm. It's a very infectious thing. I'm not like a diehard Swiftie, but when you're surrounded by 65,000 of them, it's like, all right, I need to match your energy.
Yeah, you're drafted into the Swiftie army.
I'm in it now. This is it. This is my life for the next 3 hours, and it was thrilling. It was definitely once in a lifetime experience. I'm really I don't think it was deliberate that I chose Springsteen and Taylor back to back. But I see so many parallels in their careers to the re-experimentation from the starting off sort of humbly in a more niche genre. Springsteen started off with sort of slower, album-oriented, Dylan-esque rock ballads. And then by the mid-'80s, he exploded into big stadium-filling, Born in the USA stuff. And Taylor kind of took a very similar journey with like country music that like I never really dug her eponymous debut whenever that came out 10, 15 years ago. But by the time she got to 89 and she was doing Style and Wildest Dreams, it was like, oh, I can kind of vibe. This is good, like pop-oriented storytelling. And then she just, kind of went straight through the stratosphere and orbited the moon with the success of the last couple albums. And I kind of really dig those two parallels from both of those artists that I love. And they all kind of write their own story. They're kind of their own producer, their own lyricist. They're writing everything. It's a singular, autoristic vision from the jump, which I really appreciate because so many other artists today don't take command of their catalog the way she did. Brian, I don't even know what you want to call what she did, but re-recording everything she's ever written just to screw over Scooter Braun or whatever his name is. It's like that's both the best FU in music history, but also like the most lucrative. Like it didn't just help her out like financially, like the crowds and her audience got behind it, and it was like, this is...
Yeah, she had a new #1 album like every couple of months for years.
It was such a good gambit. It paid off in a big way, and I totally appreciate and respect everything she's done outside of her talent as a musician, but like just her career has been very fascinating to watch. And
I think she also elevated the dialogue around what happens to artists and
100%.
publishing rights.
That was
and everything.
huge.
There's been a variety of that kind of, not even necessarily controversy, but like, I mean, Michael Jackson bought the rights to a bunch of Beatles songs after Paul McCartney told him he should buy publishing rights to other people's songs. And then, like, what else? I think both Weezer, Wilco, and Radiohead have all had various struggles over, like, purchasing the rights back to their songs or doing something very strange with the way an album was released in order to secure the rights for themselves. Right. They've all done versions of that. And I don't know that it connected with mainstream audiences until this happened.
Oh, yeah.
And people kind of were like, suddenly there's like teenagers who know how ASCAP works and everything. And you're like, wow,
that's exactly right.
That is the power of Taylor Swift. So now, so far, these first three songs, these are songs I'm intimately familiar with.
Okay.
But the song that lifts your mood, this is a song I heard for the first time. So Crash by Primitives, specifically the 95 mix. What's specific about that mix?
I don't even know if there is another mix or another version. The 95 mix of Primitives Crash is from the Dumb and Dumber soundtrack.
Yes.
Which is the only way I know about the song. I like to say I have a very eclectic, very deep music collection, but really it's very wide. It's a very wide collection, not very deep. So I know a lot of different artists, but I don't know a lot of different deep cuts from different artists. Primitives is like probably the only song I know from them, and I only know about it because it's in my all-time favorite comedy. I try to watch it every couple years. It never fails to make me laugh. And for some reason, when this song comes on, I'm just like amped. I'm just pumped up. It is so poppy. It is so fun. It is so fast. And it just has like a killer hook and a killer beat to it that if it's ever on when I'm in the car, like I have to be careful of speeding. I have to make sure the windows are rolled down. Like I'm in a much better mood when I hear that. And I'm suddenly doing 95. And I'm like, wait a minute. Slow it down, JP. It's just the music. Like it has the same sort of musical, physical effect on me that Freebird does. Mm-hmm. That like I can't not just like, oh, my foot's getting heavier. Oh, that Ronnie Van Zant solo my foot's getting a little heavier now.
Yeah.
So same exact thing where I hear it and I'm ready to go. Ready to like just run through a brick wall. I love it.
I feel like as a person, I think you and I are the same in that we are music people, but we're also movie people. And so if
I'm definitely more a movie person.
Yeah.
Than the I mentioned I've been on 4 podcasts in 4 weeks. The other 3 were all movie podcasts.
Okay.
To kind of give you some reference.
Yeah,
there.
sure. So But I would say that for some reason, I don't know if this is true for you or not, but for me, a lot of songs, if I can associate them with a movie, that like it really resonates a lot more.
Yes.
Sometimes there are songs that I've heard a lot that I like just fine, and then it's a needle drop in like a movie or like a really good TV show or something. You hear it on The Bear, and suddenly you're like, wait a minute. This is the best Radiohead song I've ever heard. And it's like, I've actually been hearing it for 20 years, but it's hitting me now.
That's exactly right. A great example of this off of the Rolling Stones' Metamorphosis album is Out of Time. They released, They released an outtake of that in like the 80s from an album they recorded in the 60s, and I had heard it. I knew it. It was cool. It's a great song. I love the Stones, have forever. Mm-hmm. But then Quentin Tarantino puts it in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing they've ever recorded. And I was instantly in the Kinks. What's it called? Spaceman or whatever it was featured in Avengers Endgame when they come into New Asgard. And I'm like, I love the Kinks. Of course I love the Kinks. But it felt like I was hearing them for the first time. Mm-hmm. And it was I love when that happens, when those two sort of worlds collide and connect. And some of my all-time favorite movie moments are ones that definitely incorporate really good music.
Yeah.
There's an episode of Quantum Leap where Ray Charles's George Is on My Mind is featured rather prominently, rather emotionally. And it's a song I knew very well, but when it happens in that context with these characters that you've grown to love over 3 seasons, it's like, I'm crying now from a song I've already heard 100 times.
Right.
And I love when that's like chocolate and peanut butter. When you put them together, it's magic.
I literally just rewatched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood the other day and have been listening to that version Out of Time a ton. I was actually just sitting at a piano yesterday, too, and just started kind of like tapping out that melody. But yeah, it's so good. And that montage is so good that I think even it might have just been yesterday that I was thinking to myself, like, you know what, I gotta pull up that part of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood again. Just because like that montage is so good.
That is awesome.
And I think that movie is a funny one it's a movie that's I think is really great to rewatch because the first time I watched it, I was so nervous about what was going to happen.
Interesting.
Because of the Mansons and everything.
Right. And you think it's going to go one way, and Tarantino's like, I don't like history, so I'm going to change it.
Right. And so once you watch it another time and you know everything's going to be all right with all the characters that you like, you can really like settle in.
Slight spoilers for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah, right. Yeah. I actually only saw it the once when it came out, which I guess was like 4 or 5 years ago now. I got to revisit it because
it's a great rewatch.
And I love Tarantino. Every one of his films I usually leave very, very enjoyable, very satisfied with it. And that one I think I connected with more and closer than most of his other recent, like, late era work.
I agree. Same here.
Right on.
But I think, like Sense and Glorious Bastards, which was like 2011. So
2009, actually. Even
2009?
longer. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, my God.
Like, Hateful Eight was, like, pretty good, and I liked it.
Yeah.
But, like, I didn't love it.
Right.
And Once Upon a Time, I was like, oh, this is like, peak era Tarantino all over again. This is great.
I almost wish, if he's only going to do 10, I almost wish he'd somehow made that one 10th, you know? Because that's a great one to end on.
This 10 thing is it's arbitrary. He's self-imposed.
Yeah.
And it's silly. Just like, he's only like in his mid-50s, 60 years old.
He's got plenty of time.
He's so much. George Miller's out there making Mad Max sequels in his late 80s. Like,
yeah.
Robert Redford made a movie when he was 92. Like, Tarantino, you got gas in the tank. Give us 6 more.
Well, I almost feel like he's going to just make another movie and then, like, change his name. And then be like, these ones don't count because I'm doing them as a different name.
Well, I love his own arbitrary rules. Like, well, Kill Bill counts as one movie. So we're technically at 11, but no, it's not 11. It's still 10 because that was. And it's like, dude, and what about Death Proof? Was that 3 different movies or one? Like,
it's point 5.
It's just he's kind of making up the rules as he wants to kind of fit his criteria. And he just wants to retire early, I think is it. And he wants to go out with a bang. So good luck to him. This slot on my mixtape basically applies to the entire Dumb and Dumber soundtrack.
Yeah.
Because you've got the Crash Test Dummies on there, the Gigolo Aunts, and a few other tracks I can't think of.
We could really name bands back in the 90s, right? We used to be a proper country.
I think. Well, you joke, but I think the Butthole Surfers are also on this.
Oh, sure, yeah,
on this
course.
soundtrack. It's one of the all-time best 1990s movie soundtracks because it's literally like, let's just grab a bunch of random indie, like, pop rock bands that, like, aren't mainstream, get them to. I don't even know if they wrote the songs for the album or if they just collected songs that already existed, but they're all just fun. Yeah. They're fun, weird, niche little songs that fit that dumb little comedy so well, and I love them all. Great movie.
We used to do that more, you know? We used to just
we did.
But I mean, it was never clear, right? Where, like, the last time this really happened were the Twilight movies, where the Twilight
Yes.
soundtracks were a big ticket item,
Yes.
so they could attract all these bands. But it's like, were they writing songs for it, or were they just kind of pulling something and going like, yeah, sure, you can have this? A mix, right?
Right.
It's like half and half.
Yeah. No, it was
So-
definitely the latter. It was stuff like, well, I was going to put... It didn't make our new album, and we were just going to throw it away or save it for a greatest hits in a couple of years. You guys can have it. It's kind of tangentially related to Seattle and Vampire. It's fine. You guys take it. But, like, yeah, we used to be a society, Zach. In 1997, we had the Godzilla soundtrack. We had Led Zeppelin, that
The Jimmy
Puff
Page
Daddy,
Puff Daddy one,
Right,
yeah.
that was incredible. We had great music on that. We had the Armageddon soundtrack, which besides the big Aerosmith hit, had all these great songs.
Yeah.
We had Kiss from a Rose, Seal with Batman and Robin the same year. Like we used to have great, awesome pop songs that were just for some reason attached to a blockbuster. Like, why did Seal provide music for Batman and Robin? There's no connection there.
Well, they used to be a great way to win an Oscar on
Yes.
your way to an EGOT.
Yes.
And now it's like, who's that woman? I think it's Diane Warren.
Yeah.
Who basically tries every single year.
15 times, no wins. Yeah. It's really unfortunate. I feel bad for her.
I don't know. I think it'd be kind of funny if they just never give it to her at a stubborn, like, sorry, you're going to write the theme song for the Flamin' Hot Cheetos movie? Sorry. We're just putting you on the blacklist.
Is that what she got nominated for last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Fire of Love or something? Yeah. All right, let's talk about, speaking of songs or movies, let's talk about a song that makes you sad or sustains a sad feeling. How appropriate. It's Deadpool and Wolverine week.
Yes.
Hugh Jackman, A Million Dreams from The Greatest Showman.
Yes, The Greatest Showman, one of my favorites, maybe all time. I think with more perspective, it'll climb up my list, which might be an interesting choice because I don't know that a lot of people love that movie.
I haven't seen it.
You really haven't? Oh,
No, but
you should.
I was listening to this. I was like, I gotta listen. I gotta watch this.
Oh, it's
'cause
good.
I love Hugh Jackman.
So
why wouldn't I like it?
He's like the most charismatic and entertaining guy right now in Hollywood. I love everything he does. This movie, I particularly, why it maintains a sad feeling is because I watched this like just 2 or 3 weeks before Emery was born in late 2017 or early 2018, right before she was born. I was going to go from just an aloof 30-something to an honest-to-God dad and family man. And I was like, okay. And the other big monumental pivot in my life, which we alluded to earlier, was I was still a YouTuber in 2017. I was still making maybe not a full-time income, but a part-time income from YouTube. And when Emery was going to be born, it's like, all right, this is, the rubber meets the road. I need to put up or shut up and get a real job, provide for my family, and make this work. Because I can't just float it and wing it. I got to actually make this work. And The Greatest Showman is largely about that. At least the first act. The movie is like 3 different movies all jammed into one, and it's kind of awesome, and I love it. The music is all aces. But the first act especially is about Hugh Jackman kind of going for broke and reaching for his dreams and saying, like, I don't care if this is crazy, which is literally some of the lyrics. I don't care if you call me crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just gonna make this work. And by the beginning of the song, he's a little kid dreaming about what he could do, and by the end of the song, he's married with kids. And he's building a life for them. And it was the kind of thing that like hit me like right straight through the heart in the theater. And I started crying. And I'm like, this is beautiful. And I want this for me. I want to achieve my dreams. And it was very poignant. And it gets me emotional still thinking about it. And what's even more emotional, what's more incredible today, maybe not a sad feeling, but a happy feeling of gratitude, is when I started showing this film to my daughters when they were old enough. And my kids love the song and love the movie just as much. So now my daughter like runs around the house singing "A Million Dreams." It's like badly off tune, running up to a room. She only knows like 3 lines in a row and just repeats those 3 lines like all kids who sing. And it just fills me with so much joy and gratitude knowing that, 6-7 years ago, I was at a crossroads where I'm like, I don't know what is in store. I don't know what our future is going to look like. I don't know how we're going to afford any of this, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to make it work. And then we did. And then to hear that kid sing that song back to me, it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So really love it. Great
Nice.
song. And I have a personal connection to it, obviously, for that reason. But I think just on its own cinematic merits is a very fun film. And if you ignore the blatant historical revisionism that paints P.T. Barnum as a great guy and not as a slave-driving, entertainer,
Right.
It is so delightful. And all the music are just total bangers. The whole soundtrack is great.
It is very gratifying when your children will resonate with a song you like.
Or anytime your kids like a thing you like.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is wonderful. This is continuing. When my daughter started asking about like Star Wars. And I'm like, well, you're still too young, I think, to watch the movies. But yes, I'll tell you everything you want to know about R2-D2. Yeah. Well, very excitedly. Yes, he's a little droid. He's an astromech. Sometimes he lives in Tatooine. Other times he lives over here. He had a little stint as, Queen Amidala's whatever. And I'll tell her the whole story. And she's like, so tell me more about the Queen. What's her story? I'm like, well, kid. And I love that. It's so exciting to share things you love with people you love.
Yeah, that's like me trying to explain the Flash and the Reverse Flash to my kids.
That's great.
Let's talk about a song that makes you feel productive.
Okay.
Daft Punk, Flynn Lives. This is from Tron Legacy, right? Or is it from original Tron?
No, from definitely the sequel, Legacy.
Okay,
which came out in 2010-ish.
Yeah.
I think.
I don't know how long Daft Punk's been around.
I'm realizing now how many of my songs are from movies.
A lot of them.
This is 3. It's about to be 4 in a row.
Yeah.
Not spoiler alert for the next one, but this is a tricky. Productive means a lot of things to a lot of people. When I want to be productive, when I want to really focus on work, I gotta turn lyrics off. I can't hear people sing, and so it's instrumental only. And no offense to Bach, Beethoven, or whatever. The old classical stuff doesn't always do it for me, so I usually turn to movie soundtracks. John Williams is obviously huge in my catalog, and Daft Punk, I think, has pretty much only done this one instrumental soundtrack. But there's something about this particular track. Tron Legacy has that like driving, amping sort of sound to it, and it focuses me, and it gets me, really energized in a good, productive way. But there's like 1,000 songs. I literally have a playlist of sort of more productive-oriented music, and there's so many on there. But this one to me felt like a good pick because it's a little different from some other stuff I could have pulled out.
I totally understand the no lyrics thing.
Yeah, especially when I'm writing.
Yeah, sure.
Like I can't hear someone else's voice talking if I'm trying to write.
I find that for me, I listen to podcasts so much that for me, any music is fine, even if they're singing, because it's not a podcast at least. So I'm not like it's a order level down with words.
Yeah, right.
But not like new music. It has to be music that I'm very familiar with, because then I'm kind of letting it.
I think that's why I like movie soundtracks, because I'm intimately familiar with everything. And they're kind of meant to be background. They're not necessarily supposed to be foreground stuff. I will say, if I'm doing like graphic design work, I'll usually throw on like a concert album, and I'll be like, well, let's go back in time to 1984 and listen to an entire Crazy Horse Neil Young album in its entirety, and see if I can plow through 3 hours of work by the time he takes his encore. And I'll do that a lot. But if I'm writing specifically and I need to actually focus on words, I can't hear somebody else's.
That makes sense.
And the Tron Legacy soundtrack, that is like 48 minutes of just magic. Good stuff. I've only seen the movie once, but I've heard the soundtrack straight through like 20 times.
I think they're making another Tron movie.
I think so.
So I guess I barely remember.
They're okay. Yeah. Both movies are like, cool.
It's it's an interesting thing where these movies that were sort of lightly future-y, predictive, but they were set in 2004 or whatever. Mm-hmm. Then we have these legacy sequels where it's like
Legacy-quel.
It really changes the kind of intent behind the science fiction, where it's like now we're talking about like a parallel universe, because obviously that stuff didn't come to pass.
Yes.
So it's an interesting like Blade Runner 2049. That was like a very interesting kind of adaptation, or it shifted the way you think about Blade Runner a little
the first
bit.
Blade Runner takes place in 2019, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think Los Angeles looked like that a few years ago. I didn't visit in 2019. Maybe it did.
Haven't been in a couple years.
I haven't been in a couple years.
Maybe it's changed.
I remember seeing oil derricks coming out of the top of skyscrapers and piercing through just a thick blanket of fog. But maybe I wasn't there that day. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about a song that makes you feel creative or inspired. Jerry Goldsmith, The First Contact end titles, which I really just think of as like the Star Trek
theme
song. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, primarily is just the Star Trek Next Generation theme. He first wrote it for the motion picture in 1979. But in First Contact, specifically the First Contact theme, it transitions from to this really beautiful string and violin heavy orchestra ballad, this beautiful theme from First Contact, which is so different from the bombastic big drums and big music sound of Star Trek. And there's something about that, like every single time I hear it, and I've heard it 30, 40 times, at least, according to my Last FM scrobbles. every single time I hear it, I get goosebumps. I'm like, oh, this is Jerry Goldsmith. He's doing something to me right now that I can't. Like physiologically, there's a change happening. I'm hearing these notes in this order, and I'm now transported to a world where Gene Roddenberry's optimistic version of the future does exist, and it's not the hellish nightmare of reality we live in now. And that's nice. It's a nice thought. Like, oh, we could have a utopian federation of planets where money doesn't matter and everyone coexists and gets along. And wow, that sounds great.
Hey, we'll see what happens with Kamala Harris. Now, all right, here's a question. This kind of big soaring score.
Yeah.
It makes me think of like, it kind of has some stuff in common with like a Superman score.
Yeah.
And like a lot of those John Williams that you were talking about. How long do you think it takes before we as a society recognize those compositions as like, that's it? Like, are we going to, in a couple of months, are we going to listen to a score of a movie from like 2017 and be like, that Michael Clayton score, that's iconic? Because like that stuff sounds amazing, and they don't do anything like that anymore. I mean, like, what's the most recent one that is like even recognizable? Like the Danny Elfman Avengers theme.
That was actually Alan Silvestri, and that alone, that was he wrote that in 2012. So that was a while ago. That's a great question. Do we have any more like classic movie soundtrack like leitmotifs and like character-driven compositions? And
they didn't do it in Twisters.
No, which was a bummer because Mark Mancina's original score is like, I want to saddle up and ride a pickup truck through a tornado. Like, there's something about that score that's so fun. Mm-hmm. And the new movie, great by the way, doesn't have any of that.
Right.
That is a good question. I don't know. I feel like some of that has kind of fallen to the wayside in favor of just really basic, almost temp music. Sure. I think when a lot of feature films are in post-production, they throw in a lot of temp music from either older productions, other movies, or just stuff that's in a stock library.
Right.
And then it's like it fits the tone and the tempo so they can edit to it. And then when it comes time to finish the movie and they've got picture lock, it's like, well, we kind of fell in love with the temporary track, so just find something similar to that. I'm like, but that has no personality. It doesn't go anywhere. It's just like a da-da-da-da-da.
It feels like a late period MCU thing, too, in particular.
Yeah, it kind of does, which is a bummer. Because there can be, I think, brilliant work from that level of, from those artists and that sort of genre. Like, movie soundtracks are a totally different, I think, collection of music. There's pop music, there's classical music, and then somewhere in the middle is movie soundtracks, which for a long time I felt like didn't get respected as much.
Right.
People just like, yeah, whatever. People didn't go to a record store and buy the soundtrack to Medicine Man. Like, that's not a thing people would ask. Hey, do you have the new Medicine Man album from Jerry Goldsmith? Well, you should, because it's brilliant. But like these days, I feel like it's becoming more, I don't know, acceptable, for lack of a better word, to like be into that unironically and just listen to movie soundtracks as much as I do anyway. I hope.
It's probably streaming helped that. Yes. You don't have to like buy it.
Yeah.
But you can be a big fan of it.
I would say a couple people that are doing still really great work. Lorne Balfe, who did all the Mission Impossible, the late Mission Impossible stuff. Great stuff on like Fallout and Dead Reckoning. And Michael Giacchino, who did a lot of the Pixar stuff and Jurassic World. Like Inside Out is a great recent example. And again, that's 10 years and the sequel's only a couple months, but great new movie soundtracks that have clear, defined themes that actually invoke clear memories and imagery. And we only get like a couple of those a year, but...
Well, yeah, the only ones I can think of are like Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, which don't really... Those don't feel like... Those aren't big, soaring musical scores.
No, that's a little different.
Like,
a little different. Yeah, but Giacchino's still doing it. Lorne Balfe is still doing it. And there's a few others. Jon Powell has done some stuff that's pretty good. But, again, like one or two of these a year that kind of break through the zeitgeist into something that's more recognizable. Whereas you go back in time to the 80s or 90s and you can rattle off 1,000 movies.
Yeah.
And just like every single one of them has a clearly defined theme or sound that I don't know that a lot of movies today do. Can you think of like a sound that you would associate with like Dune? The new Dunes.
Yeah, like
besides that, it's like that's it though, right? We don't have like a music. We associate it like a dumb chant. And there are a lot of ones. It's like the Hans Zimmer inspired kind of wah thing. Yeah,
like,
Chris Nolan, I think, is probably still kind of carrying the flag for composers.
Yeah, the most recent score for the Batman, that was Michael Giacchino, right?
I'm actually not sure who did that one.
But
it's good, though.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So that's maybe the most recent example of, like, that one. If a school band does the Batman, if our kids join their school band and the school band does a medley of scores including the Batman, we'll be like, oh my God, they're doing the Batman.
I remember that from 2022.
I took a friend to go see Twisters in IMAX because I was like, I'm not driving down to Reading by myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a good day. We went to Chili's.
Nice. I've been to that Chili's.
Yeah.
I always call it the furniture store because I don't want to give them free publicity.
Yeah.
I gotta go to the furniture store and watch a movie.
People did not understand when I was telling them where I was going to see an IMAX. They were like, "There's an IMAX in a furniture store?"
Yes, and it's the greatest theater in New England.
Yeah.
I am not kidding.
Get on it, guys.
It's incredible. Have you been to the IMAX Laser before? Have you seen a movie there?
Yeah,
okay.
I've been there, I guess, probably 3 times.
Oh, nice.
I did like Dunkirk, Oppenheimer, and Twisters.
I've seen both Avatars there, a couple of Mission Impossibles, all the big release. Top Gun Maverick was incredible.
Oh, holy shit! Yeah, that was
it was awesome. I somehow convinced my dad to drive 2.5 hours to see it. I'm like, Dad, trust me.
Yeah.
You're gonna want to see it on the 100-foot screen at the furniture store. He's like, all right, fine, I'll come. What do I got to do? Just come. I'll pick you up. Let's go.
Yeah.
And he loved it.
Yeah, I was going to say,
It's
I'm sure he was like, you were right.
Such a good dad movie. Such a good dad movie.
It's true. It really is. And I think that's a funny thing that has a lot to do with Glenn Powell's popularity, I think. It's so funny because I've talked to several women who are like, I don't really get Glenn Powell.
My wife and I were having, I'm like, what do you mean you don't love? He's so charming. He's handsome. He's out there like riding trucks into tornado. Like, this guy is the best. Like, Hitman was so fun. And anyone but you, we loved that as well. Honey, why aren't you on Glenn Powell train with me? She's like, I don't know. He's okay, I guess. I'm like, what's wrong?
I think he's a male heartthrob for guys.
It's so interesting that you say that because it's exactly true. I don't know what it is. He's like charming and attractive in a non-threatening way. And I'm like, I kind of love this guy. I can recognize that he's handsome, but like I'm also not threatened or annoyed that he's like obscenely overly attractive. He's not built like John Cena. Right? Like, okay, he's like an attainable level of attractiveness.
Yeah, absolutely.
I never would approach that, but like I like this guy. He's good. He's great.
Some of the looks in Hitman, it's like that's not totally outside of the realm of possibility for us. A couple of years of dedication.
Yeah.
And then we would get there. So let's talk about a song you associate with a good memory. We have 2 here that we can they kind of both work together in a way. Frankie Valli, Can't Take My Eyes Off of You, and Elvis Presley, Can't Help Falling in Love. Both of them are songs that if you're listening to this and you haven't like revisited these songs in a long time, you listen to them in headphones and you're like, there's a lot here sonically.
This is how they used to make music, man, in stereo.
There's like, in the Frankie Valli one, there's like a weird kind of like, just kind of like sharp sound in the left channel for a while that I'm like, this is like Radiohead, It's like, and it's Can't Take My Eyes Off of You. So
I love both. A big reason they're very fond memories for both is they were the first song I played each of my daughters respectively. So Emery heard Elvis. That was the very first song I don't know if it was intentional. I remember turning on my phone and wanting to play just some music because we had been in the delivery room just tired and exhausted for like a week at that point because it was a failed labor and then an induction for a C-section. So we were in the hospital for literally 8 days. It was a nightmare. And by the time she was born, we were just all exhausted. So I'm like, let's just put on some music. And I hit shuffle like twice. And I'm like, ooh, no, this is good. Let's leave this on. And then I just found myself sort of absentmindedly starting to sing to my daughter, who was like 6 hours old. So beautiful memory for me. And then when Josie was born, I was like, she deserves a memory too. Mostly for me. It was for me. She's not going to remember this.
Yeah.
So I found Frankie Valli. I went, this is a good pick. Because I was kind of, all day long, I was kind of like, I can't stop staring at her eyes. Like I got to... just very on the nose, very lyrical. Can't help falling in love. Can't get just my love for my kids.
That's great.
Yeah,
I like that. Yes,
and they're just great, good. I don't even want to call them like bubblegum pop because they're deeper than that, but they're good, kind of like '60s ballads and like radio hits. Good singles. Yes. Good '60s singles.
Yeah, I feel like Elvis in particular is someone who. Obviously, I grew up hearing Elvis all the time, kind of in the background.
I got into him a lot just recently, like
Yeah.
my mid-30s.
Yeah.
I discovered how deep his catalog ran. He did something like 35 movies in the 60s and did an EP for every one of them. And most of them aren't great. Like Clambake is a fun, weird, dumb song. But I'm kind of like, this is awesome. How come I've never heard Clambake before now? Like I need to get more into like the mid-Elvis period.
I think there are certain people who are that like icon level where as a society we only really know like them on the surface. You know
Sure.
what I mean? It even happens to people like Michael Jackson in a way. Like there are only like 5 Michael Jackson songs that are like still famous.
Yeah.
You know, and some of them are even kind of like slipping out and then some they come back a little
Well,
bit.
especially
like,
if you exclude Thriller. Like
Right.
off of the Thriller album, besides all the hits on there, it's like, yeah, he has a few other songs that most people know.
Right.
But it just tend to be this sort of fading away of relevance outside of like diehard circles and stuff, which is kind of weird to say about someone like Michael Jackson or Elvis Presley, who were the top performers of their era. To be like, yeah, are people forgetting Elvis? No, but I think they're forgetting some of his songs.
Right.
Because he wrote, and no, they didn't write, he wrote nothing.
Right.
He sang over 900 something individual songs.
That's crazy.
900 unique tracks.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy how big his catalog is.
I think you get shuffled into one of 2 columns, and you get, even if you're not a singer-songwriter, you get put like in singer-songwriter, or you get put in like pop star. And if you get put in pop star, there's all these images and things that people associate with you, and like T-shirts and posters and moments on TV or movies. And then, but like with Bruce Springsteen, among his fans, has that, but in the pop culture, doesn't have that.
Right.
But it has like 25 songs that are like famously recognizable Bruce Springsteen songs at minimum, and probably closer to like 50. So it's like, I don't know, it's something happens to you when you're an artist for long enough.
Sure.
You get sorted into one column.
Yeah,
or
it
the
is.
other.
It is kind of weird like that. That history takes a kind of a long, bendy curve, and it comes back around to what used to be ubiquitous fame is now sort of like a weird niche. Like, oh yeah, I know a couple songs from him. Like a couple. He's Elvis.
Yeah.
This guy like he didn't invent rock and roll. He stole rock and roll.
Yeah.
He literally stole rock. You guys got to know who this guy is. He was very important in the late 50s.
So from a good memory, 2 memories, in fact.
Dun,
2 children,
dun, dun.
2 births. Always a good memory. A song you associate with a bad memory. Van Halen, Jump.
Yes.
Is it just who's the guy who left Van Halen? just
No.
a David Lee Roth bad memory?
No,
or
no.
like,
I wish I could say I had particularly strong feelings about the David.
I once
and
waited on
Sammy.
David Lee Roth, and it was a really bad day.
I'm a huge Sammy Hagar stan. I can't. No, this is another case of me taking lyrics and titles too literally. It was the summer of 2004. I was about to leave for college, and my father and I had just gotten in a huge fight. Like, we hadn't talked. It was kind of like the slam the door, drive down the street. Maybe I'll see you when I come home from college. Like, I'm not going to talk to you again. And the end of the story, thankfully, is that we made up and hugged, and we've been much closer since then. But it was like a clear pivot in our relationship from me becoming a child to an adult.
Yeah.
And reconciling with that kind of falling. I don't even remember originally what we even fought about, but it was like a big deal fight. Like I had never like slammed the door in his face and like drove off before. And immediately after that, I had already agreed to help paint one of his houses. He has a lake house at Winnipesaukee, and I had already agreed, I'll help you paint it. I'll get up there on the ladder and I'll paint it because I'm a good, dutiful son, and I'll help you with this and whatever. And I had already agreed to it. And it was kind of like, you're going to do that, you're going to paint the house still. I'm like, fine. And it was like, I was just so like frustrated. I'm like, I'm going to paint this house. The best house has ever been painted because I'm mad at my dad, but I'm going to take it out on him with my work ethic. But I was still like, I had like an entire weekend. I was on this ladder painting this little like 3-season cottage all alone with my thoughts and a boombox at the foot of the ladder playing music. And that was the only company I was all alone for an entire weekend. Just like hours after having this fight with my dad. So I was just like wallowing in all these thoughts. I'm like, I'm going to go to college in a couple months. What's life going to look like? I was just reeling with a lot of these emotions. And then I was just feeling really, I don't know, angry and despondent and confused and afraid and lonely and aimless. Like, what is my life going to be? I don't know. I think everyone at 18 or 17 goes through some period of this where like brand new comes on and it's like, wow, he's singing right to me. And you suddenly realize like what emo means as an emotion and not just a genre of music.
Right.
Anyway, Van Halen's Jump from 1984's 1984 comes on. And I was like, not now, ZLX. I'm staying on this ladder. Like, and it sounded to me like it was like, go ahead and jump. Just jump off the ladder. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to push through. And I was just so angry. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, I need some sign. I need some motivation to keep painting this dumb house. And then that song comes on and tells me to jump. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep painting this. And it was just, there was something ironic about the title and the lyrics right in that moment in my headspace where I was just like, I'm not now. I don't want you encouraging bad thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm on top of like a 2-story roof right now. This is not helpful. And for whatever reason, that's the kind of indelible memory and song that kind of got married together. Mm-hmm. And now whenever I hear that song, which is otherwise a very fun, big pop ballad, big, hair band kind of arena song, I'm like, I just think of that summer where I was pissed at my dad for reasons I can no longer remember.
Funny, yeah. That's also like what you're describing is almost like a gag from The Simpsons, though, where
yes.
like Homer is like looking for a sign,
yes.
and then like the radio comes on and tells him the exact opposite of what he wants to hear.
Yeah, it was exactly like that. And I remember kind of like laughing, but I was kind of angry. Like I need like a more positive. I need to get out of this head. Like I could tell the dark clouds were circling, and then I'm hearing like these. Again, I'm taking the lyrics and the title literally,
right?
And I'm like, this is not helping my headspace right now. I need to, and I think I actually got off the ladder and like shut off the music and just sat for a little bit because I'm like, I need to just clear my head because I don't feel well right now. And I remember that was over 20 years ago.
Did you do a good job painting the house?
He said I did, so.
Oh, all right, well, good.
And we had a handshake, and that was sort of the start of the reconciliation. But by the time I actually went to college, when he actually had to physically drop me off at the dorm, we had not spoken, I think, 3 words all summer. But when he finally dropped me off, he gave me a good firm handshake and wished me luck. And I was like, okay, it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And that was nice. And again, another one of those memories that I remember well because like, oh, okay, the things we remember actually are important. Maybe that's why I do remember it. Have I mentioned that podcasts are also my version of therapy?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's me too. But it's also
I've never gone to therapy, but I go on podcasts all the time, and I'm always having these little epiphanies where I'm like, oh, shoot, maybe the reason I remember this memory so concretely is because it was such an emotional part of my journey to adulthood, and I shouldn't brush it off as just, oh yeah, it was just a handshake my dad gave me. Like, no, it's clearly important. Why else would I remember it?
It can be kind of, as a parent now, it can be kind of scary, right, to realize as a kid the kind of random moments that really imprinted on you, and you're like, "Damn, man, I'm on camera 24/7."
That's exactly right, and I'm really lately more than when the girls were younger. I am aware, and I'm trying to be cognizant of those moments that might, for whatever reason, burn permanently into their psyche.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, I can't. If I snap at them for whatever reason, they're never going to trust me to do whatever again, and they're going to think that whenever they go to Dad's office, they're going to be in trouble. I'm like, no, I don't want to burn them in that way, where they start looking at me in a different way than I did to my father or whatever. And it's like, that's not helpful. You gotta, all the millennial trauma has to stop with us. We can't pass that along. We won't make it.
It is funny too, though. Sometimes there'll be moments where I can tell I'm like making a good memory with my children. And it's really weird where sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I remember my mom doing this.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I'm my mom now. Or I remember my dad, doing a kind of wild thing that I remember being really funny and whatever. It's like, oh my God, I'm my dad now. It's so weird. It's so weird to like say something to your kids and to like hear. It sounds so cliche, but like it's so real.
It absolutely.
Like,
it's like an out of body
voice coming out of your mouth.
Right. Yes. I've had a few of those like out of body experiences where time almost stops for a minute, and I'm seeing myself at 90, reflecting on this moment. I'm like, oh shoot, this I'm forming a core memory in real time, and I'm aware that I'm forming that memory.
Yeah.
Like a great example is I have so many fond memories. We mentioned at the very top of the show of like dancing with my parents the Beatles music in my childhood home, and we're just dancing along to George Harrison or whatever, and we probably only did that like 4 or 5 times. I don't think that was a nightly routine for the Paulas to get around and dance in our kitchen to the Beatles. I don't think we did that a lot.
Yeah.
But we did it a couple times, and I remembered it. So now when I'm doing that sort of thing with my kids, where Dua Lipa comes on, and I suddenly grab my kid and start swinging her around the room like a ceiling fan, I've only done that to her like twice. But it's a very real possibility. She's going to be like, oh, when you used to dance with me all the time, Dad. I'm like, I did?
Yeah.
Like, I actually think we only did that like 2 or 3 times, kiddo. But it's the kind of thing that she's probably going to remember, hopefully, more often than I do, and with, good, positive feelings. So
hopefully.
We can hope.
I think so. I think they probably will. That's the thing. Let's talk about our last thing here. Let's talk about a song that makes you think of a loved one. Elton John, your song.
Beautiful song, written by Bernie Taupin, performed by a gay man, which is why I closely associate with my wife. It was our wedding song when we got married, and it was our first dance, our first song. And the reason it was our first song is because it was, I want to say, the first song we ever danced to ever. We'd only been dating for maybe a week. I don't even know. The timeline's a little fuzzy, but like the night we both decided, like, hey, let's make a go at this. Let's like actually start a relationship. We're not just friends. Like, let's actually cross from friendship to whatever boyfriend girlfriend looks like. I think like that very first night we were kind of flirting. I don't know if we kissed that night, but I do remember this song came on and I started dancing with her, and I was like, oh, there's a spark happening here. This is magic. This is electricity. We're falling in love. Like, I'm experiencing this, one of those moments. Like, I knew in the moment, like, this is happening. We're forming a core memory, and I clearly remember thinking to myself, this is the beginning of falling in love. This is the beginning of a relationship. And that was like the very first song we ever danced together. It's like the one I closely associate with my wife and falling in love with her. And now literally whenever it comes on the radio or the iPod or the shuffle, whatever, I usually try to grab her and kiss her and dance or whatever.
That's very sweet.
Which is very nice. It is very sweet. And she loves it. So, and we both know all the words and all the songs, and we'll kind of sing them back to each other. So it is nice.
All right, that was our episode 150. I mean, I think it's like the 24th episode of Make a Mixtape. The other 126 are from the pre-format era. And it's only the second episode of our Substack era, which seems to be working so far. Thank you to everybody who let me know. The only hiccup I'm aware of is that the show is on Spotify twice now, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Both feeds are updating. I assume it will work itself out eventually. How you doing? You watching the Olympics? I am. I mean, I'm watching the highlights on Peacock, but it works. The Olympics give you such a specific feeling. Such a weird mix of awe and wonder and patriotism. It shouldn't do it for me, but it does. Like watching LeBron James just absolutely trounce basketball players from the Sudan's got me like, USA! USA! Sometimes it feels real, that there's a certain kind of greatness that you can only achieve in America. Like Katie Ledecky, like have you seen this? Probably the hardest I've laughed all year is watching Ledecky get so far ahead of the other swimmers that they're just not even in the shot. You keep looking at the edge of the screen, like, surely at least one of them will appear at the edge of this screen at some point, 60 feet behind her, and they just don't. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is genuinely awe-inspiring to watch and think this is the fastest a woman has ever swam in the history of recorded time, but beyond that, it's very funny. Simone Biles, amazing. Pommel horse guy, love him. These feats of athleticism are they're just at the limit of my visual perception. That's why it's so incredible to watch. And it's not something you can get or feel anywhere else. I'm so Olympics pilled. It's a very funny contrast, though, to watch the Olympics on Peacock and, bear witness to the indomitability of the human spirit, but to have it presented to you by an AI Al Michaels voice for some fucking reason. Why do they do this? I signed up for a customized playlist of Olympic highlights that I watch every night. And between the real clips, I get what is apparently an AI reading, pretty basic copy. It does ask you what it should call you, and I wrote Zach, but apparently that's too hard for the AI to process because Al Michaels has never said my name Instead, it makes these really weak attempts at personalization. Like it said the other day, because you're a fan of team sports, here are some highlights from today. Really incredible technology. Guys, that was absolutely worth the acre of rainforest. I'm ashamed to say that this is the first Olympics that I've paid much of any attention to since, 1996. I mean, I've hazily been aware of stuff. Michael Phelps, and there was that other gymnast who made the face, Michaela. Honestly, 60% of current gymnasts are named Michaela, so it's a safe bet. But yeah, I haven't been this locked in since the Atlanta Olympics, when I was 9 years old and absolutely in love with the gymnast Dominique Moceanu. She was one of the Magnificent Seven, the gold-winning team from Atlanta. I was down bad. I was down so bad that I read a book about her, which I remember being her autobiography. But it must have been some kind of cash grab unofficial thing, because her actual memoir, Off Balance, was published in 2012, and I promise I had long since moved on from my crush by then. Okay. Alright, so I found the Dominique Moceanu book that I read as a kid on Amazon, which literally came out in September 1996 and was supposedly written by Moceanu herself when she was 13 years old. I'm extremely curious now what could have possibly even been in there. Was it literally 15 pages? If anybody somehow miraculously has a copy, let me know. But definitely don't buy a copy, because the money would almost certainly either go to the parents she emancipated herself from when she was 17 years old, or her gymnastics coach. And again, just playing the odds here, probably not the kind of people we want to support. Much love and light to Dominique Moceanu, of course, one of the most important athletes in the Zach Little canon. Anyway, we'll be back next time. Bye.